everyone, bienvenidos to Pica Poco Kitchen. Today we're making calabaza en tacha or candied pumpkin and pumpkin pie. Vámonos! We normally associate maize, beans, and peppers as the basis of Mexican cuisine, and we always forget about pumpkin. Known to our ancestors as the Three Sisters, corn, beans, and squash, when planted together, they share a lot of nutrients amongst each other. They provide shade and structure, ensuring a successful growth, making pumpkin one of our Mexicans' main crops. In fact, there is archaeological evidence dated 10,000 years ago, found in Oaxaca. There is proof that there was a consumption of some sort of wild form of squash in a period of pre-domestication cultivation, which makes pumpkins and squash the most ancient crop find. Calabaza en tacha, like many other dishes, take their name from the tools or the methods that were used to prepare it. In this case, a tacho, which is a nickname for a copper pot. Copper pots are used among many different sweet creations, many sweet productions, because of the qualities of copper, which are perfectly heat distribution. So when they would cook a calabaza in a tacho, they started naming it Calabaza en Tacha. Now, the gender swap there, it was probably just a sound thing. It sounded better to say Calabaza en Tacha than Calabaza en Tacho. But I find it to be a happy, accidental representation. I'll just put that out there. The date of origin of this dessert is not very well known. It dates around the 20th century. However, there is no documentation throughout the Viceroyalty period, since at that time the only documented dishes and recipes were those from the elite. However, the first documented evidence of this dessert dates after the Revolution, when there was a craze for a reclaim identity, and that's when they started documenting the recipes of the common people. The traditional method for cooking this dish requires a lot of force, since the pumpkin is cooked whole when it's still green and perforated, so the syrup and the aromas penetrate it throughout the slow cooking process. Fortunately for me, and my lack of hulkiness, there are easier methods of cooking it, like in Oaxaca and Guerrero, where you can chop the pumpkin and cook it in the syrups. And since this dish is very popular in November because of Day of the Dead, and I didn't do anything particularly for Dia de Muertos, I decided to bring it back because we're still in November. And since in November we also have Thanksgiving, I thought about conversion of the two worlds. So I'm going to show you how to make calabaza en tacha and also how to use it to make pumpkin pie. This is an experiment that I hope will work. So if I have not bored you yet, please stay for the ride. Let's start by talking pumpkin. In Mexico, to make calabaza en tacha, you would use Calabaza de Castilla. Calabaza de Castilla is a variety of winter squash. In the US, Calabaza de Castilla belongs as well to the Fairytale pumpkin, which is what I have here. These kind of winter squashes are large, they have smooth skin and dense flesh, which makes them perfect for this dish since it requires a long cooking process. And of course, just like with any other pumpkin, you can save the seeds, clean them and dry them and use them for something else, or if you're like me, forget completely about them. A very important thing that you have to remember before prepping your pumpkin is to give it a good wash. because we're gonna be using it with the skin. So run it under your tab, use soap if you have to, give it a nice rinse, which is what I had to do, even though mine came already in wedges. I did cut it in different size pieces. They don't have to be the same size. I like to keep it varied. Some are bigger than others, but here it is, my 6 pounds of beautiful pumpkin. In a heavy pot, I'm gonna add 4 cups of water to make the syrup. There, I'm gonna add 2 full bars of piloncillo. They would be a total of 16 ounces. To spice it up, I'm gonna add 1 big stick of cinnamon, 1 star anise, 3 cloves, and 6 whole peppercorns. If you can get Mexican peppercorns, then just add a couple. And even though it's not traditional, I like to add a piece of citrus zest. In this case, I'm using satsuma. We're gonna cover that up and let it completely melt. We'll come back from time to time just to help it dissolve a little. And when it starts boiling, we're gonna come back and start adding our pumpkin. And now it's time to fit all of our pumpkin in our pot. There is no right or wrong way to do it. You just want to tuck it all in with no care in the world. I know that it's going to look like there's not enough water, but trust me, everything is going to get coated and everything is going to get cooked. We're going to fit it all in, and from time to time, we're going to come give it a look and maybe flip some of the bottom pumpkins to the top. But trust me, everything is gonna be well done. So we're gonna cover it and let it cook over low heat for 1 hour. And it really couldn't be easier. After 60 minutes, your pumpkin is ready. And I want you to check out the color and texture of this pumpkin. With just my spoon, I can go through it like butter. And at this point, you can go ahead and serve it already and burn your mouth raw. But I like to transfer my pumpkin into a container so it cools off and take that syrup back to the stove and reduce it at least half its volume. Serve your pumpkin warm and drench it with more of that syrup. Everybody likes to enjoy their pumpkin different ways. Some people just go ahead and have it just with the syrup. But in my house, we would have it with a splash of cold milk. You can have it with creme fraiche if you want to make it fancier, or any other way you wish to enjoy it. And the video would have ended up here until I decided that I wanted to experiment and make a pumpkin pie. So let's start by making the dough. I have 2.5 cups of flour with 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of sugar. We're gonna give that a quick pulse to mix, and then we're gonna add 2 full bars of butter that I kept chilling in my fridge, and we're gonna give it a couple of pulses more until the butter breaks down into little pieces. Now we're gonna add half a cup of very, very cold water. I like to keep mine in ice until the last minute. We're gonna pulse it some more until the water is incorporated and we start seeing some clumping. And now, following the tips of Thomas Joseph from Kitchen Conundrums, we're gonna dump the content of the food processor into 2 pieces of plastic that we are going to use to compact into a big disc. No mess, no suffering, no heat touching the butter. The best tip in the world. Once most of the dough is under control, wrap it up and then use your rolling pin to press it down just to make sure that everything is one solid disc. And because this amount of dough is good for 2 pieces of pie or for 1 double crust pie, I'm gonna divide it and then just compact it again into 2 smaller discs. use a rolling pin once more, and wrap them up. You can put them in your fridge if you're planning to use them later that day or next day, or even in your fridge if you're planning to use them a different time. After 15 minutes in my fridge, I'm gonna move on to the making of the pie. So I am going to roll out my dough in a flour surface to make the crust of the pie. We're gonna brush out the excess flour and we're gonna trim out all the extra dough that hangs too low on the pan and then proceed to do a simple crimping. I am by no means an expert on beautiful baking goods, so just bear with me. If you really want great advice, follow the Queen Pie herself, Erin McDowell. Nobody better than her. Nobody better than her. So I'm just attempting a little simple pointy crimp by using my fingers. Once more, I would not be giving you any advice on this because I am honestly not very good at it. Now, if you want whatever shape or crimp you add to your pie to stay, you should put it in the fridge to rest for at least 20 minutes or so. But because it was late, I was getting tired. I just wanted to keep moving on. I didn't do that, and you'll see what happens if you don't let it rest. First of all, we need to par-bake this crust. So I'm crumpling up a piece of parchment so it fits well in the base of my pie, and I'm also cutting the excess of the parchment so I don't cause a fire. To give weight to the crust so it doesn't misshapen in the oven, I'm gonna add my official baking beans, which are regular beans that I have in a Ziploc bag that says baking beans and I use and reuse for baking. We're gonna bake these at 325 for 30 minutes. Meanwhile, for the pie filling, here I measure 425 grams or 15 ounces of my pumpkin that I puree. To that I'm gonna add 4 whole eggs. When making this pie, I had to take in account that my pumpkin, because of the way it is being cooked and the type of pumpkin it is, it's gonna have more water content. So I have to balance that out throughout the rest of the ingredients. So going through many pumpkin pie recipes, I took inspiration in Claire Saffit's caramelized honey pumpkin pie to come up with this one, since I'm also using a sort of honey with the syrup. To my mix of pumpkin and eggs, I'm gonna add a quarter of a cup of packed brown sugar. Now a splash of vanilla, a quarter of a cup of the syrup that I used to cook my pumpkins in, which is gonna bring all the spices, and 3/4 of a cup of heavy whipping cream. We'll give that a good mix and wait for our pie crust to be ready. And after 30 minutes in the oven and 10 minutes cooling down, here is my pie crust. I'm gonna carefully remove my very official baking bins and give my crust a quick egg wash, which will give it an immediate sheen but also protection from becoming soggy. Pour in your pie filling, but don't overfill. Whatever remaining you get, you can bake it next to your pie in a little ramekin. I'll do a final egg wash, and here is a proof that what happens when you don't let your pie rest in the fridge before baking. But now we're gonna bake at 325 for 60 minutes. Once the time is up, turn off your oven, crack open the door with a wooden spoon, and let the pie cool completely down inside the oven. And here we have them. The pumpkin smells like tradition. It is exactly what I remembered. And I'm happy to tell you that the pumpkin pie worked. But it's not about working and how they taste. So, first things first, You would want to consume the pumpkin warm. I like it better warm, but I guess you can do it cold. It's really not a strict rule about it. What you want to do is add some of that wonderful syrup on top. You can even take it even a notch sweeter and add some condensed milk on top. For me, that's way too much, but let's give it a try. It melts in your mouth. It's so spicy. And I mean, in spices, you can taste all of them. It is a very complex flavor, but if you're into pumpkin and pumpkin spice stuff, I think you need to give it a try. And you not necessarily have to use winter squash. You can use any other pumpkin. And talking about other pumpkins, I was also thinking about next time I make the pie, I'm gonna try to do it with actual sugar pumpkin because I think it can work as well. So I was a little bit worried, first of all, that it wouldn't set, but it set perfectly. There was no liquid on top, no cracks. It was just perfectly fine. I was also worried about the texture, but I guess we'll find out. Since winter squash is more stringy and pumpkin pie pumpkin or sugar pumpkin, it's way smoother. So I was kind of nervous about that, but I mean, it has to be good, right? Let's see. Let's try it without the whipped cream first. Woo! Wow, this is good. It's so silky. There is no texture, not at all. Even though I can see some specks of the pumpkin, it's super creamy. It is very subtle in a very elegant way. It almost vanishes. It melts in your mouth, but it leaves this delicious flavor. Oh, I am a fan. It's not very sweet though, so if you like sweeter things, maybe you want to increase the sugar, or like I said, make it with sugar pumpkin, but treat the pumpkin in this method because the spices are there. It's very pumpkin forward, but without being aggressive. I am a big fan. I think that from now on, I'm gonna make my pumpkin pies using the candied pumpkin method, which whatever pumpkin I use. But I mean, let me tell you that this pumpkin worked just fine. My mouth is watering already, and it's really good. The custard, it's so good. Wow. I normally don't have a lot of success when I'm experimenting, but this time, oh wow, a winner. So, if you're planning to give your pumpkin pie a twist, or you're planning to bring an additional dessert to your Thanksgiving party, please give this two a try. And if you enjoy them, just like this recipe, please share them with your friends. Like, subscribe, and be notified. And for more, follow me on the socials. Adios, amigues.